That's crap.
Baloney.
Bullshit.
Hogwash.
Baloney. Bullshit.
Baloney.
Bucket.
Rubbish.
Bullshit.
Crappy.
Mega crap. Bullshit.
Everything that guy just says bullshit. Thank you.
Welcome to the 30-minute bullshit podcast. My name's Jason Green. We're here to talk some bullshit about any subject that comes up. We bring on guests every single time. It doesn't matter what we think. It doesn't matter what's out there because none of it's true anyway, and we're just rolling with what we can.
Just being alive is bullshit. Am I right?
You are right. So my partner in crime here is Shay.
I'm Shay Northrip, and I've got with me Rosalie Andrade. How about you say hello?
Hi.
You might even recognize her from other episodes. She's my girlfriend. And then we have Ashton Northrip as our special guest.
Hello.
Tell us a little bit about yourself, Ashton.
I am a college student going to college right now. I'm really undecided. I originally did some math, going the mathematical way, but now I'm just undecided and choosing multiple topics and things like that.
He is the smartest of the Northrip clan. And who do you got with you, Jason?
I'm not saying it's hard to beat the smartest in the Northrip clan, but good for you, Ashton. I'm sure you got it. I have my lady here, Sophia Rhodes.
Hey, what's up, guys?
It's really not hard to be the smartest in the Northrip clan, that's for sure. How about you tell us since you're the special guest today, Ashton, what we're talking about today?
Well, first off, we're going to be talking about some sleepwalking.
Very interesting. I know you have a little bit of an issue with that in your past. How about you tell us a little bit? Do you remember anything about that?
Oh, yes. Most of the sleepwalking that I did, it mainly when I was younger. I grew out of it, thankfully, but
it could come back.
I think it only comes back in like if I sleep somewhere that is not normal for me.
Ooh, I'm glad you said that.
It's a not normal place to sleep in. Like maybe you like go on a bender and then you randomly wake up in somebody else's bed. Is that what you mean?
No, I just mean like if it's not like a friend's house or like a family member's house, or like my
a serial killer's house.
Yeah. You know, I just go into serial killers' houses every now and then just to like test my luck.
So it's
haven't caught me yet.
It's interesting you mentioned that because I used to get night terrors in my early 20s, like really bad night terrors, and it was almost always when I was sleeping in a place I was unfamiliar with. So like if I went over to Rosalie's house to take a nap, I'd almost always have night terrors.
I have night terrors even in my own bed, and that's typically the only place that I ever sleep is my own bed unless I'm staying in a hotel, and I get night terrors in my own.
So when did you start having night terrors, Ashton? And then we'll talk about Sophia's stuff.
I haven't had much night terrors. It's mainly just the sleepwalking.
So tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah. So the earliest that I remember was I actually caught myself sleepwalking before, which is fairly rare because every other time you, Shay, and then our brother Nashon would just be like, oh yeah, you sleptwalk, or our parents would say, oh yeah, I saw you walk into the living room and go back into your bed. And this time I was having a dream where I was walking, I forget where I was walking, but I was walking away from our dad in the dream, and I was telling him I forget what, but as I'm doing that, I feel myself walking, and I slightly open my eyes, and I see myself walking through the hallway next to our bathroom. And this was inside Oregon, I think. It might have been Washington. No, it was in Oregon. And as I was walking, I just see myself walking, and I'm like in that like half awake, half dreaming stupor, and I just see myself walking. I'm like, oh, I'm sleepwalking. And I just immediately go back to sleep.
So I just want to chime in here. I actually remember a couple times when you were sleepwalking, and like I remember before I knew. So you all know about how like you're not supposed to wake up sleepwalkers, right?
Yeah.
Do you know why that is?
No.
It's mostly Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. I just said you were gonna tell me.
It's mostly just because of like a sleepwalker can hurt you if you wake them up. Like they might freak out and not know where they're at and start hitting you. And that's mostly why you don't want to wake them up. You kind of want to just like guide them back to bed, is what I've been told.
Yeah, I think there's actually been major studies and even documentary films that have been made on this subject of killer sleepwalkers, where they're completely unaware and they commit violent acts while they're sleeping. I would think that logically you'd want to wake that sleepwalker up to prevent them from killing somebody, but I mean, yeah, that's a totally valid point.
I know there's also like a thing or two about like people pretending that they were sleepwalking when they killed people.
Probably the defense in Canada where they let everybody off for murder charges for the stupidest of reasons.
Yeah, no, for sure. There are some very questionable people out there who said they were sleeping when they killed somebody, and no, that didn't. I don't buy it.
Yeah, fuck those guys. There's a movie about it called
Sorry,
Side Effects.
Canada.
It's pretty cool. Yeah, no, Canada's got the worst justice system. Them and, never mind. I'm not going to get into that. We'll talk about that some other time.
That's a whole other
But they're
topic.
super nice. They're super nice.
Oh, they're so nice.
And they give everybody
so
medicine.
nice.
Right, their judicial system is just ridiculous.
They're fucked.
But yeah.
Go ahead.
There's an interesting story that I heard from one of my friends who is studying to be a law student, where there was a case where a guy drove. I don't know if it's still considered sleepwalking, but he in his sleep, he drove his car all the way to his parents' house and was like messing around the kitchen, and like his mother apparently tried waking him up, and he ended up taking a knife and killing her. And he ended up getting, I don't know if I want to say getting away with it, but not being convicted because there was he said he was sleepwalking, and I mean,
That's
Damn.
terrifying. That is seriously terrifying.
I've driven. I've been so tired. I used to work graveyard security back in the day, and I've driven from one location to another. From Escondido, for those people who live in Southern California, from Escondido to Del Mar, or actually the other way around, is from Del Mar to Escondido. And I remember leaving Del Mar, and I remember arriving at the place I was supposed to be at in Escondido. I have no idea how I got there.
Damn. I know that was an issue that my friend Zhang used to talk about too, was he would go home super late at night and like find himself in bed after the last thing he remembered being like sleeping. Now to go back to touch back on like your sleepwalking when you were a kid, Ashton, I remember a couple times in particular where like I tried to wake you up or tried to get you back to bed, and like you would like open your eyes and they'd just be completely white, which now I know is because of the REM cycle, right? But like it'd be terrifying. Like you'd like have completely white eyes, and then like sometimes if I tried to wake you up, you just start screaming.
Did he look like he was like possessed, like straight out of The Exorcist or something?
Well, you have to also understand that at that time in Ashton's life, he was like skin and bones. So yeah, it was pretty scary.
Does he have red hair? Does he not have a soul?
No, he's got a soul.
Just checking.
Now I know, Sophia, don't you have an issue with sleepwalking? Why don't y'all tell us a little bit about that?
Well, apparently it's a funny topic that we bring this up now because apparently just the other night I is this grammatically incorrect? It's weird. It's sleepwalked when it should be sleptwalked or sleptwalk. But anyway, I did that apparently just a couple of nights ago, and I don't remember it at all until Jason told me the next morning. Jason,
Yes.
yeah, what did I do?
So essentially, I'm asleep on my side, and she does sleep talk too. So she did that before that, a little bit earlier. She started mentioning just some weird stuff. I'm like, hey, what's going on? Because she kind of sat up a little bit, and she's like, what do you mean, what's going on? I'm going somewhere. I'm like, no, go back to bed. Everything's fine. And she lays back down. And she goes to sleep. I go back to sleep. I wake up, and she's at my side of the bed, going through the drawers in on my side, and I go, what are you doing? She goes, well, you have to review it before I can send it out, and I don't know where it is. And I look at her and I'm like, but there's nothing to review. What are you talking about? And usually I play along pretty well. Like, she'll say something and I'll start asking her questions about it, and then I'll try to mess with her. Like, I'll be like, I can't believe you're naked right now. And she'll be like, what are you talking about? but as far as like, she just was digging through the drawers, and I was like, what do you need? And she's like, I need to show you that thing. It needs to be approved first. And I was like, I don't understand what needs to be approved. And she goes, listen, I've been working on this for a while. And then I said, you know what? You should probably go back to bed. And she kind of just looked at me, turned around, and went back to her side of the bed and laid down.
I like
Damn.
really, really vaguely remember in my subconscious mind, like for some reason, opening up your nightstand drawers, which I would have no reason to do that, particularly at 3 o'clock in the morning.
Oh yeah, it was not at a normal time. I was out cold.
But yeah, I don't remember that exchange at all whatsoever, and that's not common for me. Actually, I get night terrors. I don't sleepwalk.
Yeah, she cries in her sleep too.
Hysterically, actually, so much to where it like wakes me up. It's kind of a problem.
So
actually.
speaking of like sleep talking and night terrors, apparently it's like a hereditary thing. And my dad, when I moved in with him originally, and we had to share a room, he would occasionally get some like really bad, or he'd sleep talk about like, oh, Sergeant, we've got a like, because he went over, I don't know, probably brought
like
this up on other
military
episodes.
PTSD type.
Yeah,
of deal.
like PTSD, military type stuff, talking about like bombing people and stuff, even though I know like they didn't do, he wasn't involved with any like bombing of people, but he's definitely had some like night terrors, and he talks about it sometimes where like people will tell him about him shouting about this, that, or the other thing because of it.
That's interesting that you say that, Shay, actually, because I didn't really think about it being a hereditary thing, because I didn't think anybody in my family has done that. But now that I'm thinking about it, when I was a kid, I do remember my dad occasionally, like in the middle of the night, yelling and screaming either mine or my sister's name, just like over and over and over again. And it would freak us out. We'd be like, what's going on? What's going on? And like run into their, my mom and dad's bedroom, and he's like dead asleep.
That's spooky.
Right? So
That's
I'm
really
like, maybe
spooky.
it is hereditary, because usually like the dreams that I have that are associated with these night terrors are like really vivid, realistic. It's not anything that's so fantastical, and I guess that's why I start crying hysterically.
Mm-hmm.
I think my dad had a drug-induced sleepwalking episode once. He was my dad had a lot of medical problems. He had cluster headaches, and they had prescribed him a mix of medication, and he went home and went to bed. In that night, he divorced my mom. He lit a cigarette while he was laying in bed and fell asleep. He got up and started polishing his boots because he was also in the military, and said his drill sergeant was coming through. He started moving chairs around the house because somebody was coming over to wash our cars, and I happened to be asleep on the couch that night. And he walked into the living room and he goes, "Turn down the TV," and turns on the TV to static and turns it all the way up and walks out of the room.
That's like poltergeist shit right there, man.
Yeah,
That's
it was
pretty spooky.
definitely interesting.
So, like I said, I used to get night terrors when I was in my early 20s, and I think Rosalie has a little bit to say about all that. What do you got to say about all that, Rosalie?
Yeah, you used to get night terrors like every night. You just wake up like screaming, like blood curdling, screaming.
Yeah, and that's what wakes you up, right?
Yeah, it was terrifying. And then like there was one time where he was spending the night, and I just woke up to him over me, like punching me and screaming.
Yeah. Well, hold on. Are you in need of assistance? Like, caw, Batman
No.
symbol, throw it up.
It was like, you know how when you punch in your dreams and like you're not doing it hard, but
Yes.
you're trying to? It was like that. Like, it wasn't hard, but it was still scary because he was also screaming while he was doing it.
Well, he was probably trying to wake you up to make sure. I know Jason has to do that for me all the time. Like, he'll
No,
have
no.
to put his arms
No,
on me,
Shay
too.
was asleep.
I was having a night terror. Like,
Yeah.
so, like I said, in my early 20s, there's been a couple times. I'll get into it a little bit more. There's some sleep paralysis involved. There's some shadow people involved.
Oh, I got shadow people. I do sleep paralysis for sure, more than once.
Shadow people.
But there's
Yes.
been like a few times where, especially in my early 20s and when like things were all just kind of up in the air about my career, where like I just wake up screaming. And in that particular moment, I don't remember a whole lot. I just remember like waking up and I was screaming, and Rosalie was like, Shay, stop. And I was like sitting over her. And then she told me that I was hitting her.
And then you felt really bad.
And then I felt really bad. It's funny. Tell them about like what your roommate said about all that.
Oh, yeah, my roommate was like, I thought you guys were killing each other. I was like, why wouldn't you come check?
Well, maybe they just thought it was like some kinky sex game or something, and they're like, "Hey, all right, let's let them have their fun." I mean, like, just necktie on the door. You just don't bother them.
So, speaking of night terrors, I know you used to get night terrors, Ashton. Do you have anything to say about all of that?
I just remember one of the stories that you and Nishon told me before when we used to share a room all together. That one night I sat up in the middle of my bed and I just started to scream, and then you two, like, obviously freaked out from waking up to hearing screaming, looked at me and went, "What's wrong?" And I just turned my head with my eyes rolled to the back of my head and just said, "Nothing," and went back to sleep.
That is straight out of a fucking horror movie, dude.
You know,
Oh
it's
my
funny.
God. I think you got temporarily possessed by a
I
demon.
know.
Right?
Possessed.
I completely forgot about that, but now that you bring it up, holy shit. I remember that.
So, Ashton, do you have a girlfriend or a boyfriend? I mean, you can go any way you want. I don't care.
We're a judgment-free zone here.
Says trigger.
Sorry, say that again. I was getting some robot.
No problem. No problem. Do you have a girlfriend?
Do you have a
My
girlfriend?
my
A
apologies.
lady
you're-
friend? A friend
Radio silence.
Do you have a girlfriend?
Oh no, sorry.
have you?
Audio issues.
He had to consider that. Could it be a boyfriend? It's okay if it is, but I like somebody you
We
sleep with
here
at night.
I almost said last podcast on the left. We here at 30 Minutes of BS podcast we're very open-minded.
I was just about to use the term open. Yes.
Sorry, my
And you
audio
can
was.
be open
Pick it
too. It's okay.
No, I don't have a significant other, be it male or female or otherwise.
All right. I was just curious if you've had to have somebody else deal with you having these issues.
Only my brothers when we ever shared a room.
Not only dealing with your issues, but also being able to report them after the fact to you. Like when you're sleeping alone, how many times does this happen and we're simply just not aware of it happening,
I'm not gonna lie. I want to video us at night, just to see what happens.
My dad wants to do that because he's heard it happen so many times that he's like, "Oh, I wanna know."
Yeah, for sure. I guess I move a lot in my sleep. I get sleep paralysis for sure. It's been a few months since I've had it. But when I can remember one that was really bad, where I'm laying in bed. I think I'm with my partner. Like things are going on, and then I notice a shadow in the corner of the room. Now, if you saw the original Grudge with the shadow kind of moving around, it kind of looked like that.
Do you
It was
own
kinda like-
or the American, The Grudge?
The American one. And it was in the corner. It was going into the corner, and then it like just flew at me, and like this face flew into my face and just screamed at the top of its lungs. And then and I still couldn't move, and it kind of backed off, and then slowly like I kept on fighting to wake up, and eventually I was able to move and wake up. But then I went right back to sleep, and it started over in another scenario again.
Whoa.
And there's been times I've been laying next to Sophia when it's kind of like that sleep paralysis is putting me in a twilight where everything seems like I'm in my bedroom, everything's normal, she's laying next to me. I might be touching her, I might be getting out of bed, I might be trying to move, but I can't. And I feel like this huge vibration over my body, and I just can't move and I can't speak. And I know when I'm really in it, like I can tell when I'm actually in it, when I'm trying to speak and my voice starts feeling like a whisper. So I start to recognize that I'm going through with it, and I kind of try to lean into it and see what will happen.
Right. Well, you're kind of trying to break the veil of consciousness and subconsciousness. It's this weird in-between state where you don't really know exactly where you're at.
Have you had any sleep paralysis, Ashton?
Yeah, and I hate it.
Tell me.
I've had it so many times. I can never remember specifically any dreams, but it always has to do with like some ghost or some entity obviously standing over me and like probably going to hurt me, or that I just think it's inside the room and like I don't see it. You know what I mean?
What do these things look like?
Again, when it comes to sleep paralysis, I can't remember seeing really anything, but I just like, it's in that realm between half awake, half asleep, where my eyes will be open and I'll kind of have or like slightly open and kind of see the room, but the entity that I think is there is like all in my head. Like I just know it's there, even though it's not.
Whoa.
And the worst is the not being able to move at all, no matter how much you try to pull up your arms.
Totally. And for me, so like I get the not seeing it. Like I remember when I was a kid and I'd get it. I can remember, so I had a pretty strong upbringing, not overly upbringing, but of Judaism. And I just used to feel like there was like a demon like right there on top of me, something just super negative in my space.
Damn.
That was holding me down and keeping me from moving. And as I've gotten older and I've kind of changed some of my beliefs, I like lean into it to see how far I can take it, but the vibrations get really strong and they buzz in my head.
Have you ever seen anything? Do you have any like descriptive?
Sure. I saw that so if there's a partner in my room, I always see my partner. If I've seen shadows at doors, I saw that one shadow that screamed in my face. That really sucked.
Whoa. Have you ever seen like an old hag or like a dude with a hat?
Or like the lady in the bathtub in The Shining?
No,
yeah, that would be the hag.
That's the hag. But no, the hat thing, I've heard. I have an ex-partner. She used to have that where she'd wake up screaming.
We're gonna have to talk about that sometime.
Yeah, she would wake up screaming at the top of her lungs like somebody was killing her, and she would say who was there.
In preparation for this episode, because we kind of talked about this a little bit before because of my brother's experience, my experiences, your guys' experiences, I did a lot of research, and at some point I want to do, like, if it's not a different podcast, something else, just like an in-depth analysis of like sleep paralysis and like the theories around it and some of the creatures that show up, because there's like the hag, there's the nightmare, which is like a demon horse, and then there's like the Hat Man, who is real spooky.
Right. It's interesting that there are these common, almost like archetypes that people consistently see.
Oh, yeah.
But ultimately, what's really bizarre about it is that ultimately our dreams are just recycled shit from our brains and our subconscious that we're trying to work out. Like, I know that my night terrors are simply based off of just life stressful situations.
It's really interesting to me, like, how all connected, like, we all experience that, you know?
And how do you explain that? It's very, I'd be interested to see, psychologically, actually, what science is behind that.
And I don't know how much science actually has to do with it, like, how much does science know?
So here's what I do. I've read, again, this could be bullshit. What I've read on the sleep paralysis is that actually when you do go to sleep, your body releases a chemical, which I can't remember the name of at the moment, that essentially stops you from moving. The reason why it does this is because you have action in your dream, and you will physically, your brain connects to your body, makes you want to move. This chemical release keeps you from doing that.
Fairness, he actually kicks a lot in his sleep, so I think I call bullshit on that last statement.
That's totally different. That's MS. That's the chemical not being released correctly.
I got a couple of really good sleep paralysis stories, if you guys don't mind.
No,
Dude.
go Shay.
If y'all don't mind, because I'm supposed to not say you guys in groups.
Why?
So
Hold on. You
It's not
derailed
politically
us.
correct. That's why.
You're
because you have
so
females
yeah.
present.
You're not supposed to say you guys, which is like it's like the same thing as dude. I call everybody dude. Same with my guy or you guys. You're supposed to say like gender inclusive terms, which the only one I know of is y'all.
My female boss, who is super religious, calls me dude. So I think you're in the clear.
Yeah, I work at I work in SF I work in SF in like one of the most liberal places on the planet, and people legitimately get mad about that stuff. I'm not kidding. We'll get into that some other time.
Yes. Okay, so go back to your sleep
Anyway,
paralysis.
so I've had 2 stories of sleep paralysis that are really fun. One, I was at Cine Gear in LA, and I was with a group of my buddies. We were staying in a hotel, and we had pizza, which usually if I'm not eating well, this is like what happens. I get sleep paralysis, and it's almost always after I eat too much pizza.
Well, and you were in a foreign bed too, right?
Yeah. And my buddies, like we were, poor college students. We shared a bed. So I'm sharing a bed with my friend Zhang, my friend Julian, and Josh are sharing a bed. And so
Insert the obvious joke here.
Yeah, of course.
We know all these people, so it makes it even funnier. Keep going. No one was touching each other, right?
No.
I mean,
we watched
you were.
Pokemon,
Keep it
the
to
movie.
Were you cuddling? Like, was?
I mean, I don't know. Zhang's a great looking guy. I could cuddle him.
Whoa.
Anyway, so it's like the middle of the night. I think it was the haunting hour, which is like 3 a.m. And I like open my eyes. I don't really see anything, but like it feels like something is like holding me down onto the bed, and it feels like I'm in a fucking oven. And it's like super, super hot. I feel like something's pushing me down. I can't move. I can barely breathe. And I just start screaming at the top of my lungs. And best part, so I start yelling and screaming, and I like throw my arm in the air. And then like Zhang freaks out and falls out of the bed.
So you sure Zhang wasn't on top of you holding you down and you just threw him out of the bed?
Yeah, I was about to say.
Pretty sure.
Was not some truth to some ass raping happening there. Are you sure it was sleep paralysis?
He's small. So I feel like if
That's why you threw him off.
but it took me a while before I was able to just kind of like throw my arm in the air. Like I was like being held down, and it felt like I was on fire. It was a hot night though. We were in LA. It was real spooky. And Zhang said that I like freaked out the next night too, but I don't remember that. But who knows? Like hotel in LA. They don't ever really tear things down there, so who knows how long that place had been up.
Guys in LA,
Yeah.
Some dude bros.
Yeah,
Sweaty
they're all
hot
filmmakers.
guys.
You're gonna love this other story then, Sophia.
All right, let's do it.
So I'd been drinking, and my friend George was over. And you all know George.
Yes, we know and love George.
He sounds like his name.
Yeah. We were watching wrestling too. It makes it even better.
WWE.
Oh,
man,
you know
that
it.
Totally get you in the mood.
Anyway, so I fell asleep, and he fell asleep, and we were on the floor in our living room, and I woke up, and I'm standing up, and I don't remember how I got there, and there's a thing in front of me, like a shade, and it looks like it has like storms going around its arms, like a tornado or something. It was crazy. It looked like a video game boss. Anyway, it's like whispering to me, "Kill him. Kill George. Kill
No
him.
way.
Kill George." I shit you not. And
So
I like,
Shay, I'm gonna have to throw you under the bus right now.
uh-huh.
I'm gonna say that because you were so quiet in school, and I think we've talked about this in person.
A little bit.
You were the one person I think people were quietly afraid would come kill us all.
Yeah, you were like publicly known as possibly the Columbine kid. But then once you get to know you, you're like totally not. You're like the sweetest, nicest person I think I've ever
Well,
met.
it a lot of it's because of how quiet I am in real life. Like I just don't say a lot, and then when I do, it's something like about something spooky.
Well, audience, one thing you have to know about Shay is that he may be quiet, but there's always something going on In
Oh, yeah,
his brain, you can always tell he's always thinking.
You can always see Shay thinking. Like, he cannot hide that. He is always thinking.
I mean, unless you're a moron and can't pick up on that, but hopefully we none of us are morons.
We all smart on the
We
30
all
minutes
smart.
of BS podcast.
Ashton's smarter than you, though. So don't.
No,
don't
he's
take that away
he's
from him.
the brains of the Northrip clan. But anyway, so I hear this like kill him, hurt him, and like I got really angry and I started throwing my fists at this thing, and I'm connecting, like I can feel it, and I wake up and George is just like, bro, hey man, oh hey, stop. And I realize like I'm sitting on top of George, and I'm like, oh shit man, I'm sorry, I had a really bad dream. And he's like, it's cool. And then he goes back to sleep.
Is that before George smoking weed or after?
This is post weed George.
I was gonna say he probably woke up and goes, "Oh, okay, no, it's cool, man."
Well, it's like what Rosalie
Go
said
back to
earlier.
sleep.
It's like you don't like feel like it's like when you punch in your sleep and it doesn't hurt anybody.
I'm not gonna lie. I punched myself in the face in my sleep.
Well, apparently I've accidentally like smacked Jason in the face too. But
that's
in my
happened.
defense, that wasn't like sleep paralysis or anything that I was trying to. I was just like rolling over and I'm like, blah. I just smacked you in the face.
That's happened. I usually laugh at her stuff. That time I didn't laugh too much. I was just like, I kind of got rolled over.
And then he's probably said something to me like, "I can't believe you did that," and I'm like, "Yeah, shut the fuck up. I'm trying to sleep."
Yeah, she does that too. So here's the thing. So Sophia, when she does sleep talk, it's kind of like when she's awake a little bit. Like she does. If you're not understanding what she's talking about, she'll try to explain herself, and then she might get upset at you if you're like, "What?" So if I do that to her when she's sleep talking, she'll get just as mad, and I'll be like, "You totally were mean to me last night." She's like, "I don't remember that. I was sleeping."
I mean, I apologize, but like in Pulp Fiction, I'm like the wolf. I think fast and I talk fast, and in my overly articulated life on the day to day, and then when I'm sleeping and I'm making no fucking sense whatsoever, I think it's kind of clear that something's wrong.
So according to my clock, we're at 30 minutes. Maybe we can do another episode about like sleep paralysis, sleepwalking,
We
and
can also
ghosts.
keep going. Like it's all bullshit, so we get to go as long as we want. It doesn't have to be 30 minutes. None of our podcasts except once
We
30
can
minutes.
also patch in another intro and do part 2 of this. You know what I mean? While we're still on the gumption of it.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
It's totally up to you. I am down with being longer than 30 minutes because I think one of my good friends, Nick, said it best. He's like, "Yeah, it's bullshit. YOLO. Go as long as you want."
I say let's close it here, and then we start a new one.
He YOLO'd me. He said
He
YOLO.
YOLO'd you?
He did YOLO me.
Motherfucker. Oof. I'm with you, Shay. Oof.
He'll hear this. He'll laugh. It's fine. He also bashed us for our intro, just so you know.
Oh, he didn't like our intro?
He said we were a little bit sloppy.
And it was. I kind of agree. It could be a little bit smoother is all. But that's because it was like the first one with a bunch of guests in the same room. Like, that's to be
Oh, I thought he was talking about the intro of the actual show.
No. He's talking about us, like, actually explaining what we do, and then pointing out our guests. I'm sure our listeners enjoy hearing it, but yes, he was very specific
I
about
think
it.
this episode went much smoother than it did before, and that just takes time and practice.
I think at this point, this would be the closing of the Bullshit Podcast. I want to make sure everybody has some sweet dreams. I want to see if anybody has some plugs. Ashton, do you have any plugs? You going to be playing video games anywhere? You go to college in any particular classes you want to talk about?
No.
All right.
I don't have any plugs.
All right.
He wants to start doing Twitch streaming at some point. It's just a matter of him working up the courage. Am I right?
Yeah, I'll eventually do a YouTube video. Me and Nashon, Shay's other brother, and my brother, I have been planning about doing like a D&D channel, but I don't want to make any promises.
At some point,
time
we're gonna bring him
now,
on to
my
talk
friend.
about D&D.
We're gonna have. I have a couple people for that. We should be rolling with people. Aaron, who's no one's met yet, is an artist and a D&D player, and he assists us with all this. So he will be coming on to talk about D&D as well. But Rosalie, you have anything to plug?
Oh, no, not really.
You don't have anything on your Instagram? You putting up your art?
Yeah.
So where can people find that?
It's Rosalie probably hates you on Instagram.
So leave her a good review, like nice comments. That's what that means.
We also have one for our dogs. It's
yeah.
Pandora and Lil at Instagram.
Oh my
Where you can
God,
see
you're
cute
those
pictures
type
of
of
them.
people.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yes,
Oh, yeah.
I knew about this. I was trying to keep it quiet for Shay's manliness.
We just lost half of our audience right now, dude.
They're cute.
Right, and I will tell you, Lil is the ugliest, cutest dog on the face of the planet.
She is. She's really cute.
She is cute. And then, Sophia, you have anything to plug?
Yeah, just this last weekend, I was shooting a film that's hopefully going to be released by next year. I actually
Does it
had
have
the
a name?
pleasure. Yes, it is What We Were. That's the name of the title. It's a feature film, and I had the pleasure of playing a cokehead junkie, wife of a drug dealer.
Just
So
like
that
in
was,
real life.
haha, you wish. Where's the money to back that up, honey?
Oof.
Yeah. And then gonna be shooting another music video here shortly, hopefully.
And anything else? Like any other feature films you're in? Hint, hint, that I might be producing.
Oh yes. One that we got Jason Green actually producing on that I'm the lead heroine in Gone with the Dead. We're wrapping up principal shooting on that this year, and then it'll
Hopefully.
hopefully yes. And actually, Shay's doing stand on that, so kind of it's a collaborative project.
Incestual project, I would say.
Incestual, because we are family.
And then, Shay, you got anything?
Yes, the 30 Minutes of BS podcast. You can find us on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, YouTube, you name it. We're trying to be professional with this, kinda. Maybe.
Try.
If you want to email us at 30minute podcast or 30minute BS podcast at gmail.com, please feel free to do so. We will answer if we have time, and we kind of don't give a shit what you think. Well, that's a lie. We totally give a shit, but we're going to act like we don't. And we'll talk to you next time.
Thanks, bye.
See ya.